Turkey sits where two worlds meet, Europe on one side, Asia on the other. For 10,000 years, every empire wanted it. Some historians suggest that never really stopped. Stand in Istanbul on an ordinary afternoon. Look left, you see minarets. Look right, you see a suspension bridge carrying 6 lanes of traffic across 2 continents. Behind you, a Byzantine wall built in the 5th century. Still standing, Turkey is not a place where history happened. It is a place where history accumulated, layer upon layer, each civilization building on top of the last. And some of those layers, some historians suggest, are still load-bearing, still quietly shaping what Turkey is, and what it is becoming. What the textbooks say. The Republic of Turkey was founded in 1923. Mustafa Kemal, Ataturk military commander, reformer, founding president, declared the end of the Ottoman Empire and the beginning of a modern secular state. The caliphate was abolished. The alphabet changed from Arabic script to Latin. Women were given the right to vote in 1934, before France, before Italy. The official story is one of deliberate, radical modernization, a country that chose to reinvent itself in a single generation, and in many ways that is accurate. The transformation Turkey underwent between 1923 and 1950 was among the most rapid and comprehensive in modern history. New laws, new institutions, new language, new national identity, built almost entirely from above, by a single man and a small circle around him. The textbooks call it the Kemalist Revolution, a conscious break with the past, a new beginning. But beginnings are rarely as clean as they appear, because beneath every new foundation, the old one is still there, and Turkey has 6 of them. Layer 1, the geography. Turkey controls the Bosphorus. That single fact has shaped more history than most countries ever produce. The Bosphorus is a narrow strait, less than a mile wide, at its narrowest point, connecting the Black Sea to the Mediterranean. Every ship passing between those 2 bodies of water passes through Turkey. Every grain shipment from Ukraine, every oil tanker from the Caucasus, every naval vessel moving between Europe and the Middle East. For as long as ships have sailed, the Bosphorus has been one of the most strategically valuable waterways on Earth. The Byzantine Empire was built around it. The Ottoman Empire was built around it. Some historians suggest that the modern Turkish state, whatever its political character at any given moment, has always understood this. That geography, not ideology, is Turkey's permanent power. One interpretation holds that Turkey's ability to negotiate with competing great powers across centuries and to survive when others did not is less about diplomacy than about location. You don't choose where you are, but you can choose how to use it. The record shows a country that has maintained influence far beyond what its economic size would typically allow. What it doesn't show is whether that influence comes from wisdom or simply from where the land sits. Either way, the Bosphorus doesn't move, and neither does the leverage it creates. Layer 2, the Ottoman memory. The Ottoman Empire lasted 600 years, from 1299 to 1922. At its peak, it controlled territory from Vienna to Mecca, from Algiers to Baghdad. It administered dozens of ethnicities, languages, and religions under a single system, not always peacefully, not always justly, but continuously. For 6 centuries, when Ataturk declared the Republic in 1923, the official position was clear. The Ottoman era was over. Turkey was moving forward. The word Ottoman was, for decades, associated with backwardness, with the weight of a past that needed to be left behind. And yet, 600 years of institutional memory does not disappear in a generation. Some historians suggest that the administrative habits, the diplomatic instincts, the sense of regional centrality that shaped Ottoman governance quietly persisted into the Republican era, not as ideology, not as nostalgia, as a way of seeing the world. One interpretation holds that Turkey's recurring sense of itself as a regional power, a country that others should negotiate with, not around, is a direct inheritance from 6 centuries of imperial administration. The record shows a country that consistently positions itself as a bridge, a mediator, a necessary partner. What it doesn't show is where that self-image was formed. Perhaps it was formed over 600 years, and perhaps it hasn't finished shaping Turkey yet. Layer 3. The secular religious tension. In 1923, Ataturk separated religion from the state. Mosques remained, prayer continued, but religious institutions were placed under state control. The Caliphate, the symbolic leadership of the world's Sunni Muslims, held by Ottoman sultans since 1517, was abolished entirely. It was one of the most consequential decisions in modern Islamic history, and it was made in Ankara by one man. In a single year, the official story presents this as modernization, a rational separation of spiritual and political authority. And for decades, it largely held. But one interpretation holds that the tension between secular governance and religious identity was never resolved in 1923. It was suppressed, managed, monitored, periodically enforced by the military when it grew too visible. Some historians suggest that the secular-religious divide in Turkey is not a modern political conflict. It is a very old question about identity, about what kind of civilization Turkey belongs to, that the 20th century paused, but never answered. The record shows a country that has oscillated between these poles with remarkable consistency across 100 years. What it doesn't show is which direction the pendulum was always going to swing. Perhaps both directions are permanent. Perhaps the tension itself is the point. Layer 4. The Kurdish question. Turkey is home to somewhere between 15 and 20 million Kurdish people. The exact number is disputed. The fact of their presence is not. Kurds are the largest ethnic group in the world without a state of their own. Their historical territory spans southeastern Turkey, northern Iraq, northeastern Syria, and northwestern Iran. When the modern Turkish Republic was founded, it was founded on the principle of a unified Turkish national identity. One nation, one language, one flag. For much of the 20th century, Kurdish identity, Kurdish language in public, Kurdish political organization was legally restricted. Some historians suggest this was not simply a policy decision. It was a foundational choice about what kind of country Turkey would be, and that choice created a tension that is never fully resolved. One interpretation holds that the Kurdish question is not a peripheral issue in Turkish history. It is a central one, a question about the borders of national identity that was present at Turkey's founding and remains present today. The record shows decades of conflict, negotiation, ceasefire, and renewed conflict. What it doesn't show is a resolution. It's worth asking whether a country that carries this question at its center can ever be fully stable until it is answered. Layer 5. The military tradition. Turkey has experienced 4 military coups since 1960. Each time, the military intervened. Each time, it eventually returned power to civilian government. The official explanation offered by the military itself was consistent across all four interventions. The Republic was in danger. The secular order established by Ataturk needed protection. The army was acting as guardian, not ruler. Some historians accept this framing, at least partially. Turkey's military was, for most of the 20th century, genuinely committed to secularism as a constitutional principle. But one interpretation holds that the military's role in Turkish political life was never purely defensive, that the recurring pattern of intervention created a permanent background condition, an awareness at every level of political life that the military was watching, and that this awareness shaped Turkish democracy in ways that are difficult to measure but impossible to ignore. The record shows a country where civilian and military authority have coexisted in complicated, sometimes contradictory ways for a century. What it doesn't show is whether that relationship has changed or simply become less visible. Guardians and rulers often look the same from a distance. Layer 6. The bridge identity. Turkey is not fully European. It is not fully Middle Eastern. It is not fully Central Asian, though the Turkic languages it shares with Kazakhstan and Azerbaijan suggest older connections. For much of the 20th century, Turkey pursued membership in European institutions. NATO membership came in 1952. European Union candidacy began formally in 1999, and yet full membership never came. Some historians suggest this was never purely a political question. It was a question about identity, about whether a country of 85 million people, majority Muslim, straddling two continents, with 1,000 years of Ottoman history, could be absorbed into a European framework built on entirely different foundations. One interpretation holds that Turkey was never going to become fully European, not because it was rejected, but because it was always something else. Something that doesn't have a clean category. A civilization that is genuinely its own. The record shows a country that has spent a century being told it must choose East or West, secular or religious, European or Ottoman. What it doesn't show is why those choices have to be exclusive. Perhaps Turkey's deepest layer is this: the refusal, conscious or not, to be only one thing. Conclusion: most countries have a story they tell about themselves. Turkey has 6, and they don't always agree. The geography says, "You are a crossroads." The Ottoman memory says, "You are an empire's heir." The secular tradition says, "You are a modern republic." The religious identity says, "You are something older than that." The military tradition says, "We are the guardians of all of it." And the bridge identity says, "Perhaps you are all of it at once." No other country in the world carries quite this combination. And perhaps that is the point. Countries shaped by the meeting of worlds don't get to be simple. They get to be layered. The countries that carry the most history are rarely finished with it. Next, the hidden layers behind Iran's ancient order. This video explores history and disputed theories for educational purposes.